It's a real story. Click if you dare. The true story of the Eye-Eater and the town it plagued. The small town of Blackwood had always been known for its quiet charm and ancient forests. But a new kind of darkness had fallen. It started with old Mr. Abernathy, found in his rocking chair, eyes gone, replaced by empty, weeping sockets. The police called it a bizarre animal attack. The town whispered about something far worse. Young Lily, a curious and adventurous soul, felt a prickle of fear, but also a strange pull towards the mystery. Her grandmother, a woman who spoke of old tales and forgotten things, warned her to stay inside after dark. But Lily, with her bright, inquisitive eyes, could not resist the urge to look closer. The air itself felt heavy, as if something unseen was watching, waiting. More incidents followed. A hunter in the woods, found with the same horrific emptiness where his eyes should have been. A farmer in his field, his face a mask of silent agony. Panic began to spread through Blackwood like wildfire. The town council was at a loss. People locked their doors, drew their curtains, and spoke in hushed tones about the Eye-Eater, Lily, fueled by a morbid fascination and a growing unease, started collecting every scrap of information she could find. She listened to the terrified whispers, the desperate theories. Something about the way the victims were found, a look of pure, unadulterated terror frozen on their faces, suggested a creature that fed on more than just flesh. It fed on fear itself. Lily's grandmother, a woman with eyes that held the wisdom of generations, finally shared her knowledge. She spoke of a creature born of ancient shadows and forgotten rituals, a being that craved the light within a soul, manifested in the eyes. It didn't just eat, it consumed the very essence of sight, leaving an eternal darkness. The only way to protect oneself, she said, was to avoid its gaze. But how do you avoid the gaze of something you cannot see? Her grandmother's words were like a chilling wind, raising goosebumps on Lily's arms. The adventure Lily craved was quickly turning into a terrifying reality. The thought of losing her sight, of being trapped in perpetual darkness, sent a shiver down her spine. Lily started having nightmares. Nightmares of being pursued in an endless black void of feeling. A cold, probing touch near her eyes. She woke up in a cold sweat, her hands flying to her face, checking if her eyes were still there. One morning, she looked in the mirror and saw, for a fleeting second, her reflection without eyes, just empty sockets staring back. It was a horrifying hallucination, but it felt so real. The Eye-Eater was not just a physical threat, it was a psychological one, preying on the deepest fears of its potential victims. The town fear was a palpable entity, a feast for the creature that lurked in the shadows. Lily knew she had to do something, not just for herself, but for everyone in Blackwood. Driven by a desperate need to understand and perhaps even stop the creature, Lily began her own investigation. She pored over old town records, searching for any mention of similar occurrences in the past. She visited the homes of the victims, looking for clues that the police might have missed. She found nothing concrete, but she felt a growing sense of connection to the fear that permeated these places. She discovered a cryptic symbol carved into the doorframe of one victim house, a symbol her grandmother recognized as a ward against ancient evils. It was a sign that someone had known, someone had tried to fight back. This discovery fueled Lily's determination, turning her fear into a fierce resolve. Venturing into the woods where the hunter had been attacked, Lily felt an oppressive silence. The birds were still, the leaves rustled with an unnatural dryness. She stumbled upon a clearing, where the undergrowth was flattened in a large, irregular shape. In the center, she saw a faint, iridescent residue, like dried tears, but with an oily sheen. It was a horrifyingly beautiful and deeply unsettling sight. As she knelt to examine it, she felt a sudden, intense coldness, as if something immense had just passed through the area. She looked up, her heart pounding, and, for a split second, she thought she saw a flicker of movement at the edge of her vision, a shape that was not quite there, a distortion in the air. Lily's research led her to the abandoned church saw a flicker on the outskirts of town. At the edge of her vision, locals claimed it was shaped that was haunted. Hashtag 39. No one dared go near it. Quite there. But Lily, armed with her growing courage and a desperate hope, pushed open the creaking doors. The air inside was thick with dust and the smell of decay. In the back, behind the crumbling altar, she found a hidden compartment. Inside, she discovered a collection of old journals and a strange, intricate map of the town, marked with symbols that mirrored the one she found at the victim house. The journals spoke of a similar terror that had gripped Blackwood centuries ago, and of a desperate attempt to banish the creature. The journals were written by a former priest, Father Michael, who had documented the first appearance of the Eye-Eater. He described a creature that fed on fear and the light of life, specifically targeting the eyes as the windows to the soul. He wrote of the townspeople and terror, their failed attempts to fight back, and the growing darkness that threatened to consume them all. He also wrote of a ritual, an ancient binding spell, that had temporarily banished the creature, but at a terrible cost. The details of the ritual were vague, but it involved a sacrifice and a specific location marked on the map. Lily's heart sank as she read the words, realizing the true gravity of the situation. The journals revealed that the creature was not simply a monster. It was a manifestation of the town collective fear and guilt, amplified by a dark ritual performed centuries ago. The original binding had weakened over time, allowing the creature to return. The priest and hashtag 39's journal ended abruptly, the last entry a frantic scrawl about the creature finding him. Lily felt a profound sense of sorrow and responsibility. The past was reaching out, its icy grip tightening around the present. She realized that stopping the Eye-Eater was not just about physical defense. It was about confronting the town and history and the darkness that resided within its own heart. Armed with the journals and the map, Lily tried to convince the town council of the true threat. They dismissed her as a frightened child with an overactive imagination. Their fear had made them complacent, unwilling to face the horrifying truth. Frustrated but not defeated, Lily sought out the few people in town who still believed in the old ways, those who had their own unsettling encounters with the creature. She found a small group of elderly residents who remembered the whispers and the fear from their own childhoods. They listened to her, their faces etched with a familiar terror. Inspired by Lily's courage, she was telling the undeniable evidence of the creature return. A small group of townspeople decided to join her. They were a motley crew, a skeptical doctor who had seen the horrific state of the victims, a grizzled hunter who had felt the creature presence in the woods, and the few elderly residents who carried the weight of the past. They knew the risks were immense, but the alternative, living in perpetual fear, waiting to be consumed, was unthinkable. They began to prepare, gathering what little information they could glean from the journals and their own instincts. The map from the church led them to a hidden clearing deep within the woods, marked by ancient standing stones. The air here felt heavy, charged with an unnatural energy. The stones themselves seemed to hum with a low, malevolent vibration. This was the site of the original binding ritual, and likely the place where the creature was most vulnerable, or perhaps most powerful. The group felt a profound sense of dread as they entered the clearing, the trees around them seemingly leaning inward, watching. The silence was deafening, punctuated only by the pounding of their own hearts. As darkness descended, the air in the clearing grew colder, a biting, unnatural cold that seemed to seep into their bones. A low, guttural sound echoed through the trees, not like an animal, but something far more ancient and terrifying. The shadows around the standing stones began to deepen and writhe, coalescing into a formless, shifting shape. They could not see it clearly, but they felt its presence, a consuming hunger directed squarely at their eyes. The Eye-Eater had arrived, drawn to the energy of the ritual site and the fear of those gathered. The creature did not attack physically at first. Instead, it projected a wave of pure, unadulterated terror. The group felt their minds assaulted, bombarded with images of their deepest fears, amplified 1,000-fold. They saw loved ones in peril, their own bodies decaying, the world dissolving into an endless blackness. The Eye-Eater fed on this fear, growing stronger with each wave. They had to fight back, not just physically, but mentally, against this onslaught of psychological horror. Lily remembered her grandmother's words, avoid its gaze. But how? The journals had mentioned a sacrifice, not of life, but of light. The original ritual had required a symbolic offering to appease the creature hunger. The elderly residents, remembering the old ways, knew what was needed. One of them, old Mrs. Gable, stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. She held a small, ornate mirror, a family heirloom. It craves the light. She whispered, the light it cannot possess. With a deep breath, she focused all her will, all her hope, into the mirror, pouring her emotional light into its surface. As Mrs. Gable held up the mirror, focusing her inner light, the swirling darkness of the Eye-Eater recoiled slightly. The mirror did not just reflect. It seemed to absorb and amplify the light, creating a barrier against the creature and psychological attack. The group felt a momentary respite from the terror, a flicker of hope in the overwhelming darkness. The creature shrieked, a sound that felt like nails on a chalkboard, a sound of frustrated hunger. The mirror was working, but it was a fragile defense, requiring immense emotional strength to maintain. Guided by the symbols on the map and the faint instructions in the journals, the group began to perform the binding ritual. They chanted ancient words, their voices trembling but growing stronger with each repetition. They traced the symbols on the ground with their fingers, feeling the cold earth hum with a strange energy. The Eye-Eater raged around them, its form shifting and contorting, desperately trying to break through the mirror defense and disrupt the ritual. The air crackled with tension, a battle between ancient magic and primal horror. The Eye-Eater, unable to directly consume their eyes due to the mirror protection, shifted its attack. It intensified its psychological assault, focusing on their emotions. It preyed on their guilt, their regrets, their deepest sorrows. It magnified their fear of failure, their fear of losing each other. It was feeding on their emotional light, on the very essence of their beings. The group felt themselves weakening, their resolve flickering like dying candles. They had to find a way to replenish their emotional strength, to fight back against this unseen consumption. In their moment of deepest despair, Lily remembered her grandmother's words about the light within. She looked at the faces of her companions, etched with fear, but also with determination. She saw their shared hope, their shared courage, their shared love for their town and for each other. She reached out and took the hands of the people next to her. A jolt of warmth, of shared strength, surged through them. They were not alone in their fear. They were together in their fight. Their connection, their empathy, their collective will became a new source of light, a powerful counterforce to the Eye-Eater emotional feast. Fueled by their newfound emotional strength, the group completed the binding ritual. The ancient symbols glowed with a blinding light, trapping the swirling darkness of the Eye-Eater. Within the confines of the clearing, the creature shrieked one final, ear-splitting cry of rage and despair as it was forced back into the shadows from whence it came. The air grew still, the unnatural cold receded, and the first rays of dawn broke through the trees. Blackwood was safe for now. The Eye-Eater was bound, not banished, a chilling reminder of the darkness that could lurk within, waiting for the right conditions to return. The group, exhausted but victorious, knew their fight was not truly over. They had faced the Eye-Eater, and they had survived. But the memory of its unseen glare and the horrifying emptiness it left behind would forever be etched in their minds.